It's time to enjoy the sweet taste of Brahms Strawberry Shortcake Sundae. Our creamy vanilla ice cream is nestled on top of Brahms fresh-baked golden bundt cakes, with spoonfuls of delicious strawberry topping all around, complete with fluffy whipped cream and a cherry, to create the perfect flavor combination. Strawberry goodness is waiting for you at Brahms.
Hello and welcome to the Squirtle Pay Dirt Pick'em Show, sponsored by Maples, Nix, and Diesel Horse Law Firm. We are going to talk high school football in just a few minutes with our panelists, but we're going to start the show tonight by remembering a very special man who had an impact on all of our lives, at least the panelists here this evening, Coach David Glover, who passed away on Saturday. We send our deepest condolences and sympathies to Coach's wife, Cindy, his two daughters, Kylie and Kinsey, and his 5 grandchildren. David spent 35 years in public education as a teacher, a coach, principal, superintendent. He was inducted to the OG-BCA Hall of Fame in 2021. Coach made a lasting impact on hundreds of students with his humor and his kindness. He truly loved others and cared about others. And on a personal note, I'm so thankful to have known Coach Glover, thankful for the impact that he had on my life. And when I think back on my high school years, many of my favorite memories involve Coach Glover and also Coach Van Meter, who we'll introduce here in a second. And I'm sure thousands of other students can say the exact same thing about Coach Glover. And by the way, just briefly, Michael Swisher and Coach John Hardaway both had incredible articles about Coach Glover this week. Swish's article appeared in the Kingfisher paper on Tuesday, and Coach Hardaway's article is in the Squirtle sampler that can be found on Squirtle's Facebook page. I highly recommend reading both of those. Our panel tonight is made up of friends, colleagues, or former students of Coach Glover, Mark Rogers, Jacob Dieselhorst, who are on the show every week, as well as 2 special guests. I'm going to introduce our guests and give them a chance to share their thoughts and memories of Coach Glover and his legacy. Our first guest, Chris Wilfong. Chris is a Wagner High School graduate who has had a long career in software development. He was the director of IT for the OSSAA for 12 years and now is the director of technology at Kingfisher Public Schools. Chris also created and owns the Oklahoma High School Sports Historical Society, which can be found at the amazing website iwasatthegame.com, which I reference every week in preparing notes for this show. Our second guest, Mark Van Meter. Coach V is another teacher, coach, and administrator who had a long and distinguished career in Oklahoma, Ames, O'Keene, and Fairview. V, I know your connection with Coach Glover goes way back even to grade school at Woodward, and you coached with Coach Glover for years at different schools. So I want to open it up to the panel. Mark, Jacob, Chris, Coach Van Meter, first of all, thank you all for being here. But just if you guys will share some of your favorite memories or thoughts on Coach Glover, I think everybody would love to hear that.
Well, I'll go first. Coach Glover was the assistant boys coach at Fairview. Coach Zare, Jay Zare, was our head coach. We had just really 2 excellent coaches, 2 kind of contrasting styles. The thing about Coach Zare and Coach Glover, though, is they had the same mentality. They just had different ways of getting there. And but Coach Glover was like our saving grace in a lot of ways, because Coach Zare was kind of like a Bobby Knight kind of type. Not a criticism, because we got the job done, but Coach Glover was just, I can't even, like, the word that comes to mind to me when I think of Coach Glover is joy, because he brought joy to everyone's lives around him. Even when he was being hard on you, even when he was being tough, he did it with love, and he did it with compassion, and he did it with respect. I mean, just a real quick, I had some attitude problems in my younger years at Fairview, and got into a little trouble because I couldn't, resist interacting with the crowd in one game, and got suspended for some games, and I had to be in detention during practice when we were leading up to games, leading up to the playoffs. So when I should have been in practice getting ready to play, and it was the hardest thing sitting in that classroom by myself every day, knowing that the team was practicing. I should have been out there practicing. And I'd sit there for a whole 2 weeks, missed 8 practices. And Coach Glover came in there every single day and sat with me. I remember one day I was like doing my homework or whatever, and I was already done with it. And he's like, "What's your GPA?" And I was like, 4.0. And he's like, "Oh, you think you're smart, huh? You think you're smart?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Let me tell you something. You might be book smart, but you know what? You're not." He's like, "You're not street smart." He's like, "You know who's street smart? Your Coach Glover's street smart." He's like, "Let me teach you some street smarts, Jacob." Well, that kind of sums up Coach Glover. He did help teach me street smarts. He made me a better basketball player. He made me a better teammate, but at that as a teenager, but so much more today. The influence he had on me, I'm a better man and a husband and a father and a leader today because of him. So I guess I'll just leave it with that. He meant the world to me.
Chris, Coach, Mark.
You guys, I don't know Coach Glover near as well as all of you all did. But what Jacob said about enthusiasm and joy, I think really personified him to me. Working with him through the state basketball tournament at the association, that he was always happy to be at those games and really put a lot into that. And I know when he was sick, it was tough on him to be there, but he was there those entire tournaments, and it can really be a grind, especially now that they've extended the tournaments where they start earlier in the week on Tuesday, and in some cases you're there from 8 a.m. in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. And Coach Glover, even though he's sick, would be sweeping the floor and doing everything that it took to run those tournaments. And when he was running the tournaments, they were always run incredibly well. So I think it was great that he ended up at the OSSAA, because that's a tough job. I know Chris can tell you that there's a lot of people that you've got to make some decisions at times that are going to inevitably go against people. And I think that his passion and the wisdom that he gained through high school sports was really, really important to rub off on the people at that organization, or not necessarily rub off. I just mean that it's important to have people like David that are there in those positions. So always love talking with him. Don't know all the stories that you guys do, but that he proposed to his wife and Alva at Taco, whatever it was there that I've yet to go. So I want to make sure that I get there to eat sometime. But a great family. His wife Cindy is an awesome person, and I hope Coach Glover is not in any more pain right now where he is. I'm sure he's not.
Chris.
Well, I don't have a lot of the cool stories, I guess, that you guys have. I kind of came into Glove's life a little later in the game, and I was asked earlier when I got to know him, and I really got to know him when he started at the OSSAA, when he got the job in 2013. And our offices were across from each other all the 9 years that he was there. And the first few years, the first 3 years, I guess, he was there, I lived in Washington, and he lived in Okarche. But I saw just I don't know, just how calm and cool he was in dealing with all these coaches, and 900 and whatever the count of coaches around the state that he had to deal with. And he would talk to every coach. I mean, if a coach called, it didn't matter what he wanted to talk. The coach wanted to talk about, he would talk to him. And many times he would talk the coach off the ledge, and the coach would just say, "Thanks, Coach Glover. I knew you'd listen to me, and I appreciate you listening to me." But he could, I don't know how he did it, but he could talk any coach off the ledge. Doesn't matter if he sent them, to Hooker for district or whatever the situation was that the coach was mad about. He would talk them off the ledge. And then in 2016, I moved to Kingfisher, and he always told me, he said, "So you need to move to Kingfisher." And I'm like, "Glove, why? Tell me." And he would tell me why. And he always told me that the two places he wanted to live, his forever home outside of heaven, was either in Kingfisher or Stillwater. Obviously everybody knew he was a big OSU fan, and he eventually moved to Kingfisher. So starting at that time, I would drive to Okarche to his house, leave my vehicle, and we'd drive into the office together. So for those years, from then till he eventually moved to Kingfisher, but from then to 2022 or whatever, for those 6 years, we just had windshield time every day. And you learn a lot about a person in a vehicle. You hear all of his stories. You hear all of his stories multiple times, which is okay. He heard my stories, and we would just talk about things that happened in the past, whether it's when he was playing, when he was growing up, his family, his brothers, individuals like you guys. I've heard a ton of stories about you guys, so I know a lot. I know more than you probably think that I know about a lot of you guys. But and we would talk about things going on in the office, and obviously that around that time his cancer had hit him. So we had a lot of tough just tough conversations about things he was going through in his life, and how it affected his family, and things like that. And so I probably saw a different side of David Glover than a lot of people saw. But like Mark said, he was always there. He's always at the state tournament, and he's sweeping the floors, and he's doing those things that he's coming in the office, and we're still hey, Glove, it's lunchtime, let's go to lunch. So let's go. There's like 3 places in all of Oklahoma City that we ever ate, but he would always be willing to go. But yeah, it just I don't really have a lot of cool stories, but I just have a lot of memories of just the things that we talked about. And he was a very godly man. He taught me a lot about life, like you guys mentioned. He taught me a lot about life. About he would always say, "I'm not a biblical scholar. I don't know the Bible as much, but man, he would give a ton of godly biblical wisdom in the way that he did." And it didn't always have to revolve around the Bible. It just he always had wisdom. And then in his he hired me here at Kingfisher. When he left and got the Soup's job, he just said, "Hey, I need a technology director." And I'm like, "Glove, it's not what I do." But he said, "I need you." And that meant a lot to me. It wasn't that he just, "I want you to come because I want you to be." He expressed how much he needed me to come, and so he hired me here. And then all those stories they told me about being a superintendent, about going to when he, back in the day when he was a superintendent, all the places that he was soup at, he talked about went to all the events. He'd go to all the games. He'd go watch the kids. It's all about the kids. That's what it was about with David Glover, was about the kids, and whether it's in the classroom, whether it's him coaching, and then when he was superintendent, he would go to a junior high football game or a junior high baseball game, wherever it was. He'd go to academic bowl. He'd go to those places, and he was their biggest cheerleader. Even today, in the games he went to recently, he's their biggest cheerleader. And he always told me that. And then when I came here and saw him as superintendent, guess what? He did exactly what he said he was doing back in the day. He'd go to everything. And even in, the times when he would just say, "Man, I just wish my legs would work today," and I'd say, "Glove, you don't have to go to Clinton to go to a junior high baseball game. They're going to be fine. It's going to be fine." He was like, "No, I'm going." And he would go. And but David Glover was an incredible, great man. And there's if you knew David Glover, you knew that. There's a lot of people that didn't know David Glover, and they may not know or understand that. But just sit back and listen to people talk, listen to their stories, Listen to the good things that people say about David Glover. He loved being a Kingfisher Yellow Jacket. It's a great day to be a jacket. That was his mantra, and he lived that every day. And he came into a tough situation here at Kingfisher, very tough situation, and that wore on him. It wore on him, and but he didn't make excuses. He those of you know Glove, he would not make excuses. He would just do what he thought was right. He always did what he thought was right. Was he perfect? Did he make every decision correct? No, but none of us do that. But anyway, great man. And a lot of you guys have a ton of stories, and a lot of people have a ton of stories. A lot of people, I was telling Mark and Adam earlier, talking about golf. He's probably played thousands of rounds of golf in his life, and there's probably thousands of people that have played golf with him. And I have a claim to fame, which I'm going to stand by, is that I am undefeated against David Glover in golf. So there's not a lot of people that can claim that. Mark, did you play golf with Glove back in the day?
Many rounds, and I came up on the short end of the stick too.
A lot of people did. But like
literally.
Yeah. But anyway, so
he can make par in his sleep. That guy just made more pars than anybody ever. He made par. Yeah. He made a par. It didn't matter. He made par.
Yeah, he was good. But anyway, but yeah, I'm undefeated against him. And I told my wife the other day, I said, when I get to heaven, I don't know if they play golf in heaven, but when I get there, I'm going to play my first round of golf against David Glover when we get there. So anyway,
good luck.
Yeah, I'll probably lose, but that'll be okay. It'll be fun.
Coach V.
Well, first of all, it's an honor for me to be on the show and be with this panel of people and you guys, Andy and Adam and Jake and Matt and John. All you guys have done unbelievable job with Squirtle. I can't tell you how proud I am of you guys for what you've accomplished on this deal, and you're just getting started. And Coach Glover talked about Squirtle all the time and how proud he was of you guys. And I promise you, he was very proud of what you guys have accomplished. And when Adam and John asked me if I would be a part of the show tonight, I said, you bet. I would love to be there to honor Coach Glover. And, when I was a high school coach and a high school administrator, I kind of had, in some of these settings that we're in tonight, I kind of had to watch what I said, but tonight I'm retired, and so I'm going to fire away. And Adam said I had the green light, and I had as much time as I wanted to talk about Coach Glover. I wore this shirt tonight because my daughters, who were very close to Coach Glover, he helped raise them, Paige and Peyton. Paige was actually here last night. Said, I'm a T-shirt guy, and I've got 50 of them from way back. This one is 30 years old, and you can read it. Says end of an era of 6-on-6 to 5-on-5. Coach Glover was one of the best 6-on-6 coaches in the state of Oklahoma. He learned from legend at Woodward, Jim Peck. I'm going to talk about him a little bit too, but and I got to ride along with David on a lot of wins. And 1995 was the first year of 5-on-5 girls basketball. We came up 2 points short, 1 or 2 points short of winning the gold ball, and took home the silver ball. But in the last year of 6-on-6, we made it to the semifinals and barely lost that game. Also almost got to the finals in the last year of 6-on-6. But David Glover was very involved in girls basketball, 6-on-6, was president of the association, Girls Basketball Association many times, ran many meetings at coaches' clinics, and was very, very well respected. Coach Glover and I go back a little farther than some of you guys, almost 60 years. 1965 is when I met Coach Glover. His dad was Dr. Joe Glover, superintendent at Woodward Schools, and he hired my dad in 1965 at Woodward High School to coach high school boys basketball and boys baseball. And David and I become close friends during that time, along with his sister Debbie and Danny and Daryl, his little brother. And Daryl, of course, is a legend in Oklahoma too. Everybody knows Daryl Glover, but just a great family. Wilma was his mom, is his mom. But they treated me like I was one of theirs. And we left in 1970. My dad got the superintendent's job in Fairview. And I've been here almost ever since. But Joe Glover gave him that opportunity. And then, of course, David stayed at Woodward and graduated in 1977 from Woodward High School. He played for the legendary Jim Peck, great point guard at Woodward, and went on to play at Northwestern for Coach Hayes. 2 years later, I graduate from, and by the way, at Northwestern, Jake, that's where he got his street smarts, because he ran with some dudes from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that showed him, because he wasn't street smart when he got there, but they showed him the ropes. G. Williams and some other guys. Guy, can't remember his last name, but they were four guys from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania that taught David how to be street smart. I promise you, and he just passed that on to you. But anyway, I ended up at Northwestern also. I played basketball up there for Coach Hayes, a lot shorter stint than Coach Glover did. I didn't last too long. Coach Glover was a point guard and started for Coach Hayes in a lot of games, was a big part of Coach Hayes' success. And it's where he met Cindy. It's where I met Cindy from Balco America. And Cindy was the best thing that ever happened to David Glover, I promise you. But then years later, after he graduated from Northwestern, Coach Peck hired him at Woodward to be assistant girls coach. And believe it or not, in 1965, Woodward didn't even have girls basketball when we moved to Woodward. And Jim Peck came there and started that program. And he's a Hall of Famer and taught David a lot of things about basketball and helped him get the job at O'Keene. And when David was at O'Keene, probably 4 years after David was at O'Keene, I took the job at Ames, which is right down the road. A lot of people don't. Ames is not even school now, but David and another great friend of David and I's that should be in the Hall of Fame, Floyd Pollitt, would come to Ames and help me with basketball camps, gave me inbounds plays, gave me offenses. I mean, I owe them a lot to my coaching career because they helped me unbelievable. And I know David's got a lot of fond memories in O'Keene. He won a state runner up there and a ton of basketball games at O'Keene American. He's well thought of there. Both of his daughters were born there. And my oldest daughter was actually born there too. I'm going to talk about that. But my dad kind of swooped into O'Keene America and stole Coach Glover from the O'Keene Whippets. And Fairview girls basketball was kind of down when that happened. And he needed a girls basketball coach. He needed a high school English teacher. And David Glover fit both of those. And Jim Slater was a high school principal at the time. He's a legend in his own mind. You guys all respect him, I know. And Coach Glover respected Mr. Slater like none other, and they had great conversations and became great friends. But Mr. Slater knew that David was a great girls basketball coach, but he didn't know about his classroom teaching. After a week of David being at Fairview High School, he went to my dad and said, he may be one of the best teachers you've ever hired here. And David was an excellent teacher. And Coach Glover and I were blessed to be at Fairview. I actually went from Ames to O'Keene after David came to Fairview. I went to O'Keene, and my oldest daughter, was born there, so we've got a lot in common there. And then David and Jay Zaire and Lyle Wells were all coaching at Fairview and called and said, hey, we need an assistant football coach and we need a girls assistant basketball coach. Come to Fairview. And I said, where do I sign up? And it was the best move I ever made. Coach Glover was a blast to coach with. He loved coaching. He loved kids. He would always say, come on, V, let's go have some fun every time we'd walk out on the gym floor. And he'd say, I can't believe they pay us to do this. He said, this is the most fun anybody could have making a living. And I might add that we were a very tight-knit coaching staff, and Andy and Jake and Adam know that. When we were at Fairview, all the coaches got along. It's not that way everywhere you go. Everybody supported everybody, and the reason why is Coach Glover made that happen. There's a lot of girls basketball coaches that probably don't even go to football games, but not Coach Glover. As rain or shine, home or away, he was at the game, before the game, in the locker room, at halftime, after the game, keeping stats, and was our biggest supporter of anybody there. Like I said, our families were very close. And in the summertime, we were either in the gym or we were at the Fairview Lakeside Golf Course playing golf. And David and I would be playing golf, and Tammy and Cindy would be, my wife Tammy and Cindy would be at the pool with all 4 girls swimming. When we got finished swimming and playing golf, we usually end up at somebody's house having a cookout, and usually at Glover's house. And, he was a great golfer, loved to play golf. Him and I played many rounds of golf over the years, and I came up on the short end of that, like I said earlier, quite a few times. One time, I got to tell a story because we were playing at Fairview, and after 9 holes, I was had 2 or 3 strokes. We went into the second 9, which is just a 9-hole course at Fairview, and got to number 3. Jake and Andy and Adam know what that hole is, a par 3. There's water on the left, fence on the right, and I'm still ahead of him a couple of strokes. And I'm thinking maybe he'll slice this one over the fence, which he never did, or hit one in the water. What's he do? Knocks it in a hole for a hole in one. And ends up beating me that round too. And I end up paying him, I don't know, a couple of dollars. We didn't bet very much money, but 60-year friendship with a lot of great memories, and we're all going to miss him.
Coach Glover was one of those guys like the day I graduated law school, I get a message from him. The day my son's born, I get a message from him. The day that I open my own law firm, I get a message from him, telling me he's proud of me.
Yeah, he was very proud of you guys. Don't kid yourself. He was very proud of every one of you guys. He was the girls' coach, but he was also assistant boys, and he took that very serious.
Well, and as good of a communicator as Coach Glover was, I think everybody that knew him, he had a way of communicating with you without saying a word too. You'd look him in the eye, and you knew exactly what he was thinking, and he knew what you were thinking, and you could have like a conversation. Like, I can't tell you how many huddles in games he and I make eye contact, be thinking the same thing or whatever it was. He was just a master communicator. And
well, you guys were a lot alike, because I played a lot of basketball with Coach Glover, and he's just like you. He never saw a shot that he didn't pass up. When we're playing town team basketball and I pass it to Glove, I'd go to the boards because he's shooting. Yeah. Just like you.
Yeah. Well, I had to. So I had Josh on my team because he was the biggest ball hog on earth. So
that's true.
Oh, man.
You're not wrong there. But a lot of good memories.
Yeah,
a lot of good memories, and we could probably tell stories on Coach Glover and have a whole episode. But some great tributes for a truly great man who we will all really miss. So thank you guys for sharing. We're going to discuss some network games, 2 games of the week, and 4 of the best out-of-network games in the state this week. So let's go ahead and get started, and let's start in 8-man football with O'Keene at Waukomis. In Class B, 2 undefeated teams are going to face off in Waukomis on Friday. O'Keene Whippets are 3-0 after a 60-14 win over Geary last week. The Chiefs blanked Corn Bible 48-0 a week ago to move to 3-0 on the season. We're still missing Tom Nelson, our 8-man expert on the show. Tom lost his father as well. So, Tom, we're thinking of you and hope you get better as well. He's facing some health issues himself. So, Tom, thinking of you and your family. But, Mark, let's start with you, O'Keene at Waukomis.
Well, this was a newsflash to me because I had Garber playing Waukomis, which is not the case. So that was an error in collecting the schedules, which was pretty difficult this year when the courts decided to get in the way of of changing everybody up the last time. Both teams are undefeated. Waukomis has played really well so far this year. I think that O'Keen is I'm trying to read Jacob's mind here. I'm going to say that he's going to have O'Keen probably about a 10-point favorite in this game. So I like the Whippets to get over on Wacomas. Should be a good one though.
Chris.
I've got to go with the David Glover pick here. I'm going with O'Keen. So that's all I'm going on. I don't know anything about him, but that's what I'm going with.
Fair enough. Coach V.
Well, this was an easy one for me, real easy one. My daughter teaches first grade there, and both my granddaughters are in elementary school there. Mike Jenkins is superintendent there, good friend of mine that does a heck of a job. I was fortunate enough to be at O'Keen coaching there before I came to Fairview and won a state runner-up in 91. Tanner Allen comes from a coaching family. He's doing an excellent job. Has a Hall of Fame assistant, Jeff Wardlaw, who's one of my closest friends that was coaching there in 91 with me. And Wacomas comes up short on this one.
Jacob.
Yeah, I mean, you got 2 3-0 teams, Northwest Oklahoma, 8-man football. I mean, that's like tradition, right? Like it's just like blow the whistle, and it's like a good football game's gonna get played Friday night. I think Wacomas being at home, undefeated. O'Keen's the better team. O'Keen's a better overall team. I got my 8-point favorite. Mark, you're right. I'm about right on the line there. And I got O'Keen winning this one by 6, 48-42.
Whole panel taking the Whippets. You can watch that on the Squirtle app, squirtle.tv, or WacomasChiefs.tv. Our next pick'em game, one of the best matchups in the state over the last 20, 25 years or so. The Millwood Falcons, 2-0 on the season, will host the Heritage Hall Chargers. Heritage Hall 1-1 in the 2024 campaign after a tough Week 1 loss to Lincoln Christian, 28-20. Mark, give us a preview.
We called this one last year at Heritage Hall. And Heritage Hall won the game fairly easily. Millwood, I think, is better than they were a year ago. They had a lot of young players, lost a couple, but the big group of this team, Turnbull, the quarterback, this is his 3rd year to start. He's a junior. Cameron Carter, loved him. He's a senior at linebacker. A lot of talent on Millwood. I think the game's going to be closer this year at Millwood. But Heritage Hall deserves a lot of respect for what they did early in the season, had Lincoln Christian on the ropes, gave them all they wanted. So I'm going to go with the Chargers on the road in a close one.
Chris.
Well, I was looking at the history of this. Heritage Hall's won the last 4 matchups. Millwood owns the series lead 10-8. I'm going to go with Coach Franklin at home. I'm going to go with Millwood.
Chris taking the Falcons. Coach V, we had a lot of battles with both of these teams back in the day. Who are you picking Heritage Hall at Millwood?
Well, it's hard to believe that both these teams were in Fairview District back when you guys were in high school, and we played them every year and had some hard-fought battles. I think Fairview is the last team to shut out Millwood 9-0 in 1997. I could be wrong, but sounds good anyway. But I'd probably pick against Heritage Hall if they were playing Palm Creek Hunter, just for a lot of different reasons. I'm not going to get into it, but especially if they're playing Millwood. Millwood, I might pick them back when you guys were playing. I might have picked them if they were playing OBU. I mean, they got that kind of athletes, and it's at Millwood. I've played there, I've coached there. I'm taking the Falcons.
Jacob.
Yeah, you mentioned shutout, Coach. Millwood, through 2 games, hasn't allowed a touchdown yet. They won their first game 14-0, then they blanked their opponent last week 63-0. Heritage Hall coming off a shutout too, winning 35-0 last week, bouncing back after that opening loss to the top team in 3A. I got Heritage Hall a 3-point favorite on the road going into Millwood. And I got Heritage Hall winning the game. I think Emory Diesel Horse cheering on the sideline might be the difference. So I'm going to take Heritage Hall.
Thank you for not leaving me on an island there,
Andy. The last time that Millwood was shut out was actually in Sorry, Mark. 2019 against
Dang.
Heritage Hall. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We were second to the last.
But before that, it was definitely Fairview, Coach, for
Yep.
sure. You guys
We shut out the best Millwood team.
Oh, right. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, picking game number 3. We have a 2A versus 4A matchup as the Chandler Lions travel to Clinton to take on the Red Tornadoes. Chandler 1-1 on the season after defeating Lone Grove 21-17 last week. Clinton moved to 2-0 in the season after a close 30-27 win over Kingfisher in overtime a week ago. Mark, kick us off.
This is Chandler's not afraid to schedule some tough games in some bigger classes. They had a series with Poto the last couple of years, and they've played Clinton before. This is a Chandler team that I think is kind of growing into some new positions and replacing some guys from a year ago. Clinton's kind of ground out a couple of wins so far this season. Beat Kingfisher in a really close game. And I do think that I think Clinton is going to get the win here at home. There's just not many teams that go into the Tornado Bowl and win. And I think that Chandler will be better off for playing a tough non-district schedule. But I think that Clinton gets the win here.
Chris.
I'm gonna go with Mark on this one. Red Tornadoes beat our Yellow Jackets last week, so they must obviously be a very good team. So I'm gonna go with Clinton at home.
Coach B.
Well, I've heard both teams are decent this year. I don't think either one of them are powerhouses. I know Chandler's a baseball school and Clinton is obviously a football school. They don't lose many games at home. I know Coach Lee pretty well, and I heard he's helping again with the Red Tornadoes. I got to take Clinton.
Jacob.
Yeah, there's something about Clinton. I don't think there's been a drop of rain there in like 5 years. That field, I remember junior high playing on that field. It was the driest. This is the driest field. But I don't know, something about that field that made them fast. This is gonna be a good game. Chandler's played 2 tough opponents and played 2 close games. I got to give hat off to Chandler for this schedule. And I think Chandler's scheduling early in the season, even though they're rebuilding a little bit, is going to pay off for them later in the season when they get into 2A and district play. But going on the road at a top 10 4A team like Clinton is a tall task. I got Clinton a 9-point favorite, and I got them winning 31-20.
Again, Squirtle app, Squirtle.tv, ChandlerLions.tv to watch that game for free. We'll move on to pick'em game number 4. We had Prague on the show last week and discussed their tough matchup with North Rock Creek. Prague looks to rebound this week as the Meeker Bulldogs come to town. Meeker 1-1 on the season after a week 1 loss to what seems to be a really good Pawhuska team and a win over Hera JV last week. Mark Rogers, Prague, and Meeker.
I was a little nervous last week going in with Coach Blankenship on the show and picking games, and he was picking against me, but I did end up 10-2 last week with the North Creek victory over Prague. The North Creek, they've got a good squad this year. We'll catch up with them a little bit later on in the season in a tough 3A district. Meeker, I thought I'd have a pretty good team this year. Travian Compton, their quarterback, is a good player, but they got crushed a couple of weeks ago in their season opener. So I'm going to go with Rafe Watkins and Prague in this one.
Chris.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to go with Mark on this one. I'm going to go with Coach Watkins and Prague at home.
Coach B.
Well, I don't know a lot about these 2 teams. I know they're pretty close together, not far apart. I bet they're big rivals. And my old high school football coach, Lee Breyer, who was also the coach at Northwestern Rangers for a few years, coached at Prague, and I've been there. I know how football crazy they are, and they're at home. I'm going to take Prague also.
Jacob.
Yeah, I think that score, that North Rock Creek score last week, them beating Prague 49-14, I think if that didn't wake up everybody in the North Rock Creek has got a team, then that was the sound wave that sent through high school football in Oklahoma last week was North Rock Creek's for real, because teams just don't beat Prague like that. Because Craig is a sound football team every season. I think that's going to be the difference this week is being at home. bouncing back. Coach Watkins is going to have these boys ready to play. They need a win. I think Meeker, Pawhuska is another really, really good football team that is going to give Fairview a run for their money. I think when the season gets, things get a little colder come December. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're going to overtake the Yellow Jackets, but I think that's going to be one of their toughest opponents late in the season. With that said, I got Prague a 6-point favorite, and I got Prague winning 28-14.
Squirtle app, Squirtle.tv, Prague, RedDevils.tv for that matchup.
So you want to create your future, discover a path worth traveling down, find a career to get excited about. For decades, Career Tech has been training talented, skilled individuals, empowering them to step into a career that fuels not only their life, but the Oklahoma workforce. These individuals are the heartbeat of this state's economy. Individuals just like you. Create your future today at Oklahoma Career Tech.
Pick'em game number 5. We also had the Beggs Demons on the show last week, and Beggs won their matchup over Henrietta 34-25. Beggs with another tough test this week as the Okmulgee Bulldogs come to town. Okmulgee looking for their first win after dropping games to Shakota and Mounds. Mark, tell us about this matchup.
This one will be all Beggs. Okmulgee is kind of struggling a little bit. I remember as the voice of the Blackwell Maroons, a very, very esteemed position that I held for a couple of years in the mid-90s. Our phone line did not work in the press box that we paid at the time an exorbitant amount of $50 or something like that to broadcast the game. And so we called the game from a telephone in the coach's office that had bars on the windows. So it was very difficult. I can promise you this, it may not be a great call on Friday night when Adam and I are in Seminole for the game of the week, but it'll be better than that one. And the Maroons got smoked. So Okmulgee's down from 5A now into Class 2A, and I think that the Demons are a really good team. They get ready to with the split in the 2A classes, Beggs is going to travel all over the state. They've got games against Davis and Community Christian here in Norman. I think that Davis game is a couple weeks away. So the Demons, I think, are going to make the playoffs this year. I think they'll win this game.
Chris.
Again, going to go with Mark. Beggs Okmulgee is down, like Mark said. Looking at the history of these matchups, Beggs since 2010, 14-0 against Okmulgee. So going to go with Beggs, 15-0.
Coach V.
Well, believe it or not, the Glover family, Dr. Joe Glover, that was one of his first jobs in Beggs, Oklahoma, many, many years ago, way before they got to Woodward. I've heard David talk a lot about Beggs, Oklahoma. We actually played Beggs in 2001 in the quarterfinals at Beggs, and if our quarterback doesn't tear his ACL that week in practice, we were ahead at half and we win that game, but they beat us. And I hear Beggs' name a lot more late in the season than I ever do Okmulgee, so I got to take the Demons.
Hey, Coach V, I have to say, Jacob was just talking about Pawhuska challenging Fairview in December, and I saw a little smile on your face there. Jackets, you feel good about the Jackets' chances against Pawhuska and some of these other teams in Class A1?
I'll take the Jackets and give you the field, Andy.
Like it.
If Jax doesn't get hurt, it's a three-peat, brother.
I love it. Jacob,
My prediction.
Okmulgee and Beggs.
Yeah, I remember when Okmulgee was a big school. What happened to Okmulgee? How did Okmulgee become 2A? I mean, Okmulgee, generated some incredible athletes. One in particular, I remember from Oklahoma State, who played baseball, who was my roommate, Matt Mabry. Matt Mabry shot out. Matt's a fireman now. Matt Mabry's a fireman now in Okmulgee, raising a family. Matt's a good guy.
Yeah, big up you.
Yeah, exactly. Great point. We'll meet Josh and I both. But Beggs showed me something last week. Beggs always schedules big at non-conference. We've been doing this show now for 4 or 5 years. It seems like Beggs' non-conference schedule is always they're not afraid to go and take an L if it makes their team better. I got them big favorite here. I got them. I got them a 35-point favorite,
Wow.
and I got them winning. I got them winning the game 49-14.
Entire panel taking the Beggs Demons. Let's move on. Pick 'em game number 6. Tonkawa put up a good fight. Ultimately fell to Powerhouse Fairview 44-18 last week. The Bucks with another tough matchup this week as they host the Class 2A Stroud Tigers. Stroud 2-0 after wins over Chandler and Pawnee the last couple of weeks. Mark?
I would love to hear some of Jacob's stories about being at Tonkawa while he was in college, but I don't think we have time for those tonight. Matter of fact, last year we did hear him and they got edited out of the show. So I'm going to go with Stroud. Tonkawa is very good. They, again, are going to challenge themselves in the non-district. I think they're going to be around in the playoffs, and they've got great tradition there. Coach Kirtley on staff, Joey Reinert, who's a really good coach, is also there in Tonkawa, and they're gonna have I think a really good rest of the season. I'm not sure they might not win this game, but I think Stroud proved a lot to me by beating Chandler. They're absolutely one of the teams to beat in their classification this year. So they're in the smaller Class 2A, but I think Stroud's pretty tough. I'll go with Stroud in this one.
Chris?
These two teams have not matched up since 2009, so it's been a while since they played. But again, I promise I didn't come into this just picking everything that Mark Rogers picked, but
You're a smart man. You're a smart man.
Yeah, that's what Mr. Glover would have told me to do. So I'm gonna go with Stroud.
Coach V?
I saw Tonkawa last week. Their quarterback is unbelievably talented, and they're physical on defense. I know they're tough to beat at home, and I was going to go with them until Mark said Reinert was at. I didn't realize he was at Stroud, but he was. I had him in elementary PE at O'Keene a long time ago, and I think he's a heck of a coach too. I'm going to take Stroud.
He's at Tonkawa. Sorry,
he's at
an
Tonkawa?
assistant. Yes, and he's a principal at Tonkawa. Yes.
But I'm taking the Buccaneers.
Okay.
That's who I was going to take anyway, but I thought you meant he was a Stroud. But I'm glad to hear that. And Joey's a great guy, and I'm taking the Bucks.
Jacob?
Yeah, I do think that I think Stroud. I remember when Fairview played Stroud in the playoffs last year. Stroud was a young team. I remember looking, I know Fairview ended up kind of running away with that game, but early in the game thinking that Stroud has some really good skill players, young players. I got all those kids back this season. I think Stroud's going to make some noise in 2A2 this year. I really do. I think this could be a big year for them. Going on the road at Tonkawa is a test, and Tonkawa wins the way they win football games is on the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. I got Stroud an 8-point favorite going into Tonkawa. I think Stroud's going to come away with a win. I think this is going to be a grinder, though. I got Stroud winning a tight game, 21-15.
Squirtle app, Squirtle.tv, TonkawaBuccaneers.tv for that matchup. Pick'em game number 7. Our first Squirtle game of the week is the 4A Hera Panthers. We'll travel to 3A Seminole to take on the Chieftains. Hera 2-0 after wins over McLeod and Western Heights. Seminole is also 2-1. I'm sorry, 2-0 after wins over Shakota and Tecumseh. Mark, you and Adam are calling this game. Is that correct?
That's correct. Really looking forward to getting to call a game of Mike Snyder's, who's the all-time winningest coach in the state of Oklahoma, a guy that is just is a legend. And they've had some injuries the last couple of years, and they're healthy now. This is a pretty good squad. The Garfield brothers are good players, and it's not a big group. And I know that Coach Snyder has been pretty upset about the way things have gone the last couple of years and just said, hey, we're not playing typical Seminole football, and we need to get back to that. Chris Bleak, the head coach at Hera, has done a really nice job, and they have 2 impressive wins so far. They kind of always find themselves in that district where they're constantly battling Tuttle and Blanchard and some of the top teams in Class 4A, but they've done a really good job with their program. And I'm doing some research today. They are completely senior oriented. I think of their 22 starters, 20 of them are seniors. So this is going to be a pretty good game. I also give a lot of credit to Hera. They have got an awesome audio visual group that does highlights for them and goes into the locker room, and they ought to be very, very proud of some of the things that they've done there. Chris would know this more than me, and we always rely on his site, which does such a great job of providing historical information for Oklahoma high school football. But I don't think Hera has ever won a game in Seminole, and they've only won once in this series. They won last year, but only won one other time since the 1970s against Seminole, who really usually has a great record against anybody in that area. I'm going to go with Seminole. But I think that this is a really close game. It could go either way.
Chris.
Yeah, Mark's right. They Seminole up until last year had won the 15 out of the previous 16 times, and Hera beat them pretty handily last year, 45-6. So, but I'm gonna go with Coach Snyder. I'm gonna go with him getting win number 388 and his all-time wins, and I'm gonna go with Seminole.
Coach V.
Wow, 388. I don't know much about either team, but I have heard of Coach Snyder, and I know he's one of the best in the business, and I got to take Seminole. That's impressive.
Jacob.
Yeah, this was a hard game to put a spread on. I think these are both teams, Hera in 4A, Seminole in 3A, that are, dangerous opponents. I did, Seminole conceded 49 points week one in that victory over Chakota. And Hera gave up, a lot of points to McLeod. So I can see, offense being strengths for both these teams, not as much defense. And so I can see this being a high scoring game. I agree with Mark. Hera having senior leadership, especially senior quarterback, senior running back, senior middle linebacker. Those are the kind of things that make differences in close football games on Friday nights in Oklahoma. And so I got Hera a 4-point favorite on the road at Seminole. And I got Hera winning this game 28-27 on a failed 2-point conversion.
I like it. And now our second Squirtle game of the week, 4A defending champs, Blanchard Lions 2-0 after a 14-10 win over Newcastle last week. The Lions will host 5A Guthrie, who is 1-1 after a close loss to Tuttle, then a dominating 54-12 win over Duncan a week ago. Should be a really good matchup. Mark Rogers starts off.
I think that Blanchard is probably a little bit more equipped to deal with Guthrie's physical front on defense than maybe Tuttle was. But that's going to be a game that I can't wait to see a little bit later on in the year. I'll go with the home team. And this is another really difficult one to call. I would be surprised if this game is either team is favored by more than a field goal when we hear the odds here. So, but I'll go with Blanchard. Lions always beat the Blue Jays in the Thunderdome.
Chris, go to you.
I'm going to go with Coach Craig, defending state champions, Blanchard at home, just like Mark said. So going with Blanchard.
Coach V.
If this game was at the Rock and Rick Michoud was still calling defense, I would be taking Guthrie. But I did talk to Greg Jackson, good friend of mine, the principal at Blanchard. He said they're pretty good again, and I know Jeff Craig can coach a little. I'm going with Blanchard.
Jacob.
This is the kind of matchup that deserves to be game of the week. I love these kind of games. Teams from Guthrie, a powerhouse 5A team, going on the road against a powerhouse 4A team. Just both these teams, kind of win with toughness, and they do it every year. This is gonna be a great game. It's gonna be a grinder. I got Blanchard a 5-point favorite at home, and I think Blanchard's gonna win this game. In a very close game. Again, I got Blanchard winning this one 24-21 on a last second field goal.
I have scores from a long time back, and I believe this is the first matchup at the first time they've ever played each other. So,
Well, that's cool. This is a great match. I mean, this is and when you talk about a jersey battle, both these two teams got some like clean, old school jerseys going head to head. The Blues against the Reds here.
There was Blanchard and Chickasha in the same district this year, and when I was looking through some of Chris's records, those two teams, even though they're 20 miles apart, they've never played either. I thought that was kind of strange. I know that, Blanchard used to open the season against Dibble. It's not been that long ago, but that community has grown so much that they were small enough not to have played Chickasha, even though they were close to them in that vicinity. But so yeah, this is going to be some different teams for Blanchard as they inevitably move up to 5A here pretty quickly.
In our business and at our firm, it's all about preparation, preparation, preparation. We are advocates for our client. We speak for them. So as a part of that advocacy, it involves hiring the best experts. It's doing the legal research. It's doing the medical research. That is advocacy behind the scenes. It's not just the bells and whistles in front of the jury.
Those were our 8 network games. You can watch all those games for free. Again, Squirtle app, Squirtle.tv, or any of the specific school websites. We're now going to discuss 4 non-Squirtle network games in the state of Oklahoma this week. You won't be able to watch these on Squirtle, but these will be great matchups. Let's start Bixby at Choctaw. Mark Rogers, go to you.
Man, Choctaw, something else with their scheduling. They played last week against Gardner Edgerton in Kansas. That's the large school state champion in Kansas. They beat Derby last year in the finals and got beat pretty good, 66-44. Cash Williams is a great quarterback, can really throw the football, is going to go play baseball at Tennessee. I think Bixby, that lost week 1, I don't know we're going to see them lose again for a while. They've got a lot of talent, and just the program is really tough. One of the better games that Bixby had that they won during that streak where they won 74 of 75 was against Choctaw. But I think this one is going to be all Spartans, and then we'll see what Choctaw can do in a really competitive 6A Division II with Muskogee, who has some really impressive wins so far this season, and Stillwater, who beat Union and has a chance to knock off Carl Albert this Friday night. So that's a tough class. Whoever wins the 6A Division II is a deserving champion.
Bixby at Choctaw, Chris.
It's hard to go against Bixby against anybody. So I've got to go with Bixby.
Coach V.
I usually don't ever pick against the Yellow Jackets, but Bixby, they'll be playing the last game in 6A again this year. I got to take Bixby.
Jacob.
Kudos to Choctaw for scheduling Bixby when they didn't have to, and getting them at home. Maybe gives them a puncher's chance. But I think Bixby losing that first game to Owasso was probably bad news for every other team they play for a while. And Bixby, like a fine-tuned machine, and I see them a 21-point favorite at Choctaw, and I got them winning the game 42-14.
Mark Rogers, Norman High at Piedmont.
Norman High, 2-0. They beat up on the green teams the last 2 weeks, Norman North and Santa Fe. Phoenix Murphy, their quarterback, is really good. He can make a lot of plays, good basketball player. He's got a brother that is also really good. So I think Norman High is maybe the surprise team in Class 6A, if they can kind of keep this up. But I will go with the Tigers over the Wildcats.
Chris.
We're going to go against Mark on this one. Both teams 2-0. I'm going to close game, I think, but I'm going to take Piedmont at home again. First time these two teams have ever matched up.
Coach V.
Piedmont, another one of those teams that were in our district with Fairview, if you can believe that, years ago, and I was part of the 2-day game at Piedmont. We get there, the referees don't show up, and they asked Coach Wells if he wants to come back Saturday and play, and he said, no, we're playing tonight. We're not coming back. And they got hold of some officials at Edmond Memorial, agreed to come over after that game and referee our game. The game started at 11, ended at 1 o'clock the next morning. We roll into Fairview at 4 o'clock that morning. I'm the only one awake on the bus. Good thing, because I was driving the bus. And I got to take Piedmont.
Jacob.
A good story. Yeah, and this is another great, cross-class matchup. Non-class, non-conference, good scheduling. Norman surprised people. Beat Norman North in a game that I think everybody thought Norman North was a big favorite. And by the way, Norman North, I want to talk about what I saw last weekend with Grady Adamson real quick, Deer Creek's quarterback. I don't know why more people aren't talking about this kid. He's thrown for 688 yards, 10 touchdowns, 234 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, 6A1 competition. That's Grady Adamson's numbers to 3 games.
Wow.
Georgia Tech is getting one heck of a quarterback. I know a couple of state schools that ought to be looking at this kid if you ask me. But with that said, I got Norman a 4-point favorite going into Piedmont, but I think Piedmont's going to pull the upset at home. I think Piedmont's going to win this game. I think Piedmont's going to control the time of possession, make Norman play their brand of football, have a home field advantage, and win this game 24-20.
Vian at Picola, Mark Rogers.
I'm on an island there. I do have bad memories from Piedmont in 1986. The Maroons offense was a powerhouse, and we lost that game 8-6, giving up a defensive touchdown. The Vian Wolverines may be the top team right now in Class 2A Division II. I like Davis a lot going into the season, but Vian, Coach Willis thinks this is one of the better teams that he's had. They're tough. Picola, I've been really high on them. I've got them rated number 2, I think, in Class A and Division I. Behind Fairview. They've got a lot of basketball players out that haven't been out for football for a while, and so I think this is one of the better teams that the Indians have had in a while, but I think Vian's the better team, and Vian will win. Should be competitive.
These teams that played since 1982 have played 24 times. Anybody care to guess how many times Vian has won?
I'll guess. If it's 24 times, I'm going to say Vian is 21-3.
Anybody else?
Mark, I'm going
12-12. 12-12?
It's not 12-12.
I'm Switzerland. What can I say?
Mark, what do you got? 24 games. What's the record?
I know nothing about either one of them.
Guess 24-0.
Is that right?
Just guess. I'm saying I don't know. It's a lot. It's one-sided.
You were guessing 24-0. It's 24-0.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, Vian has beat them 24 times in a row. 17 of those games were shutouts. So very, very dominant series. I'm going with Vian, 25-0.
Coach V.
Dang, it sounds like Fairview Chisholm series or something. Fairview winning all those, but I got to go with Vian.
That was a great comment.
I should have led off with that. So
yeah, that's an impressive stat. And Picola being at home, I do think Picola is going to be a good team this year. But I also see that they've their defense has given up points to both of their opponents in victories. And I got Vian a 14-point favorite coming into Picola, and I think Picola keeps it closer than that, but I do think Vian keeps that winning streak going and wins this game 35-28.
With that late breaking information, I thought we were going to get a little higher line.
Sounds like 25 around.
I go by the formula. I stick to my formulas. They don't always work, but
that's like the OSU line. I don't know what happened, man. That
was weird. What is it? What is it now? Is Utah favored?
Utah's favored by 2.
Is their starting quarterback playing?
Rising is supposed to play.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. So I don't know.
I don't know that
it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. in Stillwater and Norman this weekend.
Maybe. We'll see. Mark, let's go to you. Our last pick'em game, Weatherford at Pauls Valley.
This one is one that hadn't been played in quite a while. Weatherford is a physical team. They're really good on defense this year. I got to apologize. One of the 2 games I lost last week was picking El Reno over Weatherford. It was a terrible pick. It may be one of the worst ones I've made since the debacle with Covington Douglas and Garber a few years ago, when I was on the wrong side of a 60-0 game. Pauls Valley is outstanding. Caden Knighton is fantastic. He is massively underrated. He's going to Baylor. He is a sprinter. He's up to 210 pounds. I think that he's going to be too much in this game for Weatherford. It's going to be close. Pauls Valley is not – they don't have a ton of depth, but they really do have a good group. If they can stay healthy, they'll have something to say about 3A in the playoffs. So I'm going to go with the Panthers over the Eagles.
I hope all the Weatherford people call into Mark's show this week and really give him trouble for that. Chris, let's go to you. Weatherford at Pauls Valley.
Well, my question is, why are these 2 teams playing? I don't know. It's a pretty long trip, but I'm going to end. From what I can see, they have never matched up. So I'm going to go with Weatherford. They're 2-0. They've outscored their opponents 51-3. Going with Weatherford.
Coach V.
Well, with the talent that Weatherford's had the last several years, I mean, I think Jelly Roll could have won a state championship there, but they just don't seem to get it done. And Woody Roof was still coaching there. I know he went back to back there. He'd be going for a 4-peat this year, but he's not. And I'm gonna have to take the Panthers.
Jacob.
Yeah, this is another. Again, we got a 4A team. Weatherford popped into the top 10 this week in 4A. Pauls Valley sitting pretty in top 10 in 3A. Hosting Weatherford. This is another great game. Non-conference, non-district, cross-class game. I got Pauls Valley a touchdown favorite at home, and I do think Pauls Valley, is going to out-athlete them in the end in a tight game. I got Pauls Valley winning this one 31-30.
I think these teams played in the playoffs in 1987, which is my senior year, because we lost to Weatherford at home 13-9, or another one of those powerful Blackwell offensive games. And then Pauls Valley got them in the second round. And then Pauls Valley was number 1 that year in 1987. So I think that they have played before, but it's not been a series that they played like in the regular season.
Well, it sounds from all the OU fans I hear, it sounds like Tennessee's going to kick OU's butt all the way to Pauls Valley. I don't seem to agree with that. I mean, but interesting stat here because I'm a Lions guy. So OU is a touchdown and 7.5 point favorite dog at home. It's the first time OU has been a dog at home of a touchdown or more since 1998. It's the first time they've been a dog at home at all since 2000, the Nebraska game. Remember the number 1 versus number 2 game when OU won that game? They were a 3-point dog in that game. But yeah, OU has not been more than a touchdown underdog at home in a real long time. And so, you got 2 top 15 matchups in college football going on, about an hour and a half, 2 hours from each other at different times of day in the state of Oklahoma. You can't ask for more than that. I mean, this is college football. You got game day in Norman. You got a Big 12, 2 of the top teams. I mean, Big 12. You couldn't ask for more. A nice follow up from Friday night into Saturday in Oklahoma football wise.
How were those sweet seats that you had in the Arkansas game? I was really appreciative of Lane Jones giving me his seats, but it was a little hot out there, and I couldn't find anything to drink or eat, and so I mean it was kind of starving. But really looked like those suites would have been a nice place to sit.
Our seats they're perfect, man. In the shade, no matter what. We loved it. That was a fun game. That was a fun game.
Well, hey, Mark, I've never met you in person. I hear you a lot on the Sports Animal, and heard Adam and John and Coach Glover really brag about you. And I think I'm a huge fan of you. You're the best on the Sports Animal. There's really not a second to you on the sports animal, in my opinion. I want to give you an open invitation to come play golf at Fairview. My treat.
I'm in.
It's kind of like the Billy Joel Piano Man song, in my opinion, where they say, they sit at the bar and put bread in my jar and say, man, what are you doing here? I mean, you need to be on ESPN or Fox Sports. You're awesome.
Well, the way that you call it like you see it, so I appreciate that. I'll take that as a compliment. I don't think you're holding anything back. So the pleasure is all mine, and I wish you luck this week on the picks. And
Okay, I appreciate
the next time
it.
I come to Fairview, I'll be playing golf and eating Mark Rogers bars and gaining probably 10 pounds. Those things are too
You
good.
come to Fairview for a game of the week or whatever. Let's tee them up.
I've been the last 2 years. I mean, we got to probably make it 3.
Okay.
I have to say the spring semester of my senior year, I had nothing else to do. So I said, hey, I'll join the golf team. And Coach Glover, Coach Van Meter were the coaches. And after about 2 or 3 days, they pulled me aside and said, Andy, you might want to find something better to do with your time. It's probably not the best for you out here at Fairview Lakeside. So hopefully, Mark, you get better treatment out there than what I did from Coach V.
I'm going to wait till the rattlesnakes go into hibernation before I come out there, though. Probably a few more weeks, right?
They're out here, brother. They are out here.
Yeah. Coach Glover used to we go out there and we'd be using Coach Glover's cart, and then he'd show up. We'd be like on number 3, and he'd be like, "I give him my cart back." And so we'd take our bags off and walk. And Coach Glover did take his cart and drive back. And he was never mad at us. I mean,
Oh no.
but he knew before long. He was just like, "I'll leave the key in the dang cup for you guys. Just make sure you plug the thing back in when you're done with it."
Well, hey, we had some great guests on last week, Robert Thomas and Coach Bill Blankenship, and 2 great guests again this week, Coach V, Chris. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you guys coming on the show and sharing your memories of Coach Glover and also picking these games with us. Really appreciate your time and insight. Thank you to those of you at home for joining us on the Squirtle Pater.
Last thing, Andy, I'm sorry, before we go, Robert was very rude to Jacob on the group text for setting the line so low in the Sulphur Davis game, because when he meant that rivalry was intense, we saw that on the text thread. So the Sulphur boys were really revving it up last week. So sorry, Jacob, about that.
I didn't even see
I thought the line was bad at the time. I thought you were way short on that one, and Robert felt disrespected. So
I went back and looked at my sheet from last week, and I had that line wrong. I meant to say 18.5, not 8.5. That was my mix-up. Yeah, I just had a line there I didn't see.
I just wanted to get that in. So I'm sorry, Andy. I didn't mean to step on you.
Robert was quite upset at the disrespect on Sulphur Davis, but so maybe he won't join us again.
Hey, he was good though. He was he had the.
Thanks for running him off.
He did a good job.
All right. Well, be sure to tune in to squirrel.tv so we can watch all those games for free that we just talked about. And we'll be back next week with new guests and more great games.